Hello there, everyone. It's Stephanie Chung, award-winning executive coach, sales mentor to elite salespeople, and internationally renowned speaker. So today I want to talk about the brain. Okay, so let me tell you the truth. I am so geeky when it comes to the brain. I love learning as much as I can about the human brain. I find it fascinating. So one of the questions that I had recently was about speaking. Now, I know a lot of my tribe, my followers tend to be people who are coaches or speakers or professional salespeople who have to speak and give presentations and things of that nature. So one of the things that I was asked was in regards to speaking. So how do you open up a speech? So here's what I want to tell you. Speaking is different. Speaking to sell from stage is different than just speaking as a keynote, which is different than doing a presentation, speaking to a client or a board, etc., etc. So this particular subject, I'm going to focus in on if you're actually either a keynote speaker or you're speaking to sell. So here's the deal. When you start off, now here's what's really cool about the brain. The brain, literally, there's a part of our brain called the reptilian part, and it's literally kind of the oldest part of the brain. And the reptilian part of the brain, it's our survival mechanism. That's the part of the brain that tells us, hey, you're in immediate danger, we gotta go. Or you're not in immediate danger, and then at that point the brain decides whether it's going to exert attention and use some of its energy to give you the attention that you require. So here's what's interesting about the brain. It's literally, it uses 20% of our energy within our body, and yet it's only 2% of our body mass. Think about that. Our brain is 2% of our body mass, and yet it uses 20% of our energy. So what the brain's constantly trying to figure out is it's trying to conserve energy. It's trying to figure out, is there an immediate threat, which means I gotta go, or is everything okay and I can put my attention someplace else to make sure that the body is functioning correctly. So when you think of the brain as it pertains to speaking, same is true when you think of the brain as it pertains to having someone make a buying decision, which that's a different subject for a different time. But when you think of the brain for speaking, here's what you want to do. If you're doing keynote speaking, or if you're speaking in any type of nature, maybe selling from stage, you want to start with a story. Because what the brain's trying to figure out, the minute you walk on stage, it's doing a quick assessment. Is there immediate threat? And then if not, then it's trying to decide, do I need to listen to you, right? Because it'd rather do something else. Because listening to you requires energy. So one of the ways to engage the brain as quickly as possible is to tell a story. Because then what happens is it has to kind of focus and pay attention and listen to the story. Now you're engaged, right? And the brain then will engage and continue to listen to what it is that you have to say. So one of the best things that you can do when presenting is not to do like the old traditional way. A lot of times people get on stage and they go, I want to thank so-and-so and I want to thank so-and-so and thank you very much. And all that's great. It's very gracious and very kind. Not saying you shouldn't thank the presenters, but certainly just be mindful that as you're doing that, the brain is still struggling. Do I listen? Do I not listen? Like, is this worth my time? So one of the best things you can do is really just start off with a story. You can certainly thank the presenters later, you can thank them before you get on stage, but starting off with the story will be much more impactful. So let me give you an example. I recently spoke at a conference for entrepreneurs. If I would have joined and gotten on, I was a keynote speaker on the main stage, if I would have gotten on and said, I'd like to thank the presenters for inviting me here today, and what a wonderful conference, and I've really enjoyed myself, I can certainly start it that way. But instead, here's what I did. Once the audience stopped clapping and kind of settled down, I said, let me tell you about one of the worst days of my entire life, which was on November 11th, 2013. Which one is more powerful? Starting with the story is more powerful. You're going to engage because you want to know what was happening on November 11th, 2013. So when you think about speaking as it pertains to the brain, always remember, the best thing that you can do as a professional speaker, whether you're keynote or you're selling from stage, is to really, as much as you can, use stories to engage your audience. That keeps the brain engaged. Until next time, I hope this tip was helpful. Remember, you're smarter than you think, way cooler than they ever told you. Now, let's get on out there and sell something.